So for those of you who heard my bio before, my apologies. My name is Ailene Gerhardt. I'm an independent board certified healthcare advocate, meaning that I help people navigate the healthcare system. This is my second career, and I'm really committed to community education. And so I offer a number of community education talks, both locally here in Massachusetts and around the country. And as I was initially giving community education talks, people would walk up to me in the Q&A and say, can you be my healthcare proxy, my wife, my husband, my partner, whoever? It's just the two of us. And that would keep happening over and over again. I was like, there must be something here. And fortunately, I was able to land on Sarah Zefgeber's book about solo aging and Carol's work and write-ups that had been all over, and Joy Laverty's. And so I sort of did a deep dive into solo aging from there and haven't looked back.
Good to hear that. Let's see, we'll go by last name, Wendl.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. In the early 90s, I took a course at a local college called The Psychology of Aging. And I took it because my husband, who is a lot older than I am, and I have no kids, but we were doing so much for our mothers who were in their 80s at the time. And after taking this course in Psychology of Aging, I realized that there's a lot to learn about being old. And if you've got adult kids who are helping you, it's a little easier. So what was I going to do? So I started holding focus groups when I retired, found out a lot of people were like me and were worried about the same things or just concerned. And I created a format called Community as Family, which I brought to my synagogue, Temple Emmanuel, here in New York City. That was in 2014. We've been meeting regularly since 2014. And the model Community as Family has been shared with dozens and dozens and dozens of other houses of faith, senior centers, individuals, and other people interested in how do I become more empowered as a solo ager. So the model has taken off, and I love talking about it. It's very satisfying to have done this and meet such great people like Ailene and Carol and Joy and Sarah and all of the other people who are the mavens in this particular field. Yeah.
And it's
Thank
great
you.
to hear about, thank you. It's great to hear about community, being part of a community, forming communities. I think that's that we will get to later. Carol?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. I'm Carol Marrock, and I am a solo ager. I didn't discover that until after both my parents died. My sister and I were helping with their elder care. And once they both died, I realized, oh my gosh, who's going to do all that for me? Because I have no spouse, no partner, no children. I literally live alone. And at that point, I started to assess my own life in terms of how can I prepare me to age well. And from that experience, I wrote a book called Solo and Smart. And in that book, I created a life plan assessment. And now I teach individuals how to really assess where they are right now in terms of aging well, and where they can make some provisions and how can they make improvements to where they are right now so that they can thrive later on, or as we all age. And so that's who I am. I do quite a bit of teaching, speaking, and this topic is very naturally very near and dear to me because I am a solo ager. So, and I will always be. I just turned 74 this month, a couple of days ago, actually. And I'm sure I'll stay along the rest of my life. So wish me well.
Well, first, happy birthday.
Thank you.
And second, wow, here's someone who walks the talk. So in 1 hour, there is so much that we could cover. And I thought that it would be best that the general discussion focus on 5 areas. One would be aging myths and realities. The second one would be financial planning. The third would be loneliness and isolation. The fourth would be technology and accessibility. And the fifth one would be community and advocacy, which we have heard a little bit about right now. So maybe we can do popcorn style this time. We'll see if that works. What are some under aging myths and reality, what are some common misconceptions about aging alone, and how do you help clients navigate them?
Well, I'll go first. I do, and it can be tough. First off, I really encourage individuals to acknowledge, even if they're not aging alone, if they have a nearby family, it's always helpful if we just start looking at where we are right now, and then learn and research as much as we can about our local resources and ways that we can better, better age. And so it's this, I could go on for an hour, but I guess primarily, it's really good to see all of you here this afternoon, because it shows me that you are not only interested, that you are aware of the issues that you might face as you grow older. And so give yourselves a pat on the back, because a lot of people want to bury their head in the sand. And unfortunately, that won't do any good. So congratulations, and I want to encourage people that you can find your way and find solutions, because they are out there. It's just that we need to make connections and learn about all the resources that are available to us.
And a lot of us do stick our heads in the sand, don't we? Because you could be recently divorced and not think you're going to go it alone, or you could be widowed and not be prepared, all kinds of scenarios. Yeah. Ailene, you had your hand up.
So one of the pieces I like to make sure of when I'm talking about solo aging is sort of sharing what my framework is, so that there's a shared language, and it may certainly differ for Wendell and Carol. I know that, but for me, it's a framework where it's really about the reliable support network. So someone can be married or partnered, not have children, live with a partner, or have had children, but for a variety of reasons, children are unable, unwilling, unavailable, et cetera, to be able to assist. And so because of that framework, my guess is, and again, I probably know about 50% of the people on the screen, everyone's going to come at it from a different way, right? Their framework, or for some people, a definition, for me, it's not, may look different than their neighbor on the Zoom screen. And so I think that in and of itself can be a myth, right? And people feel differently about the phrase solo ager, et cetera. I think also the notion that someone navigating on their own is by default lonely or disengaged, I think is certainly a myth that deserves shattering. There are certainly pieces, and we can certainly discuss them, that yield some of those feelings and other challenges, but it is not a default by any means of imagination.
Yeah, well, you've raised some interesting points there. First of all, you could have children, but they might not be available. They could live in different parts of the country, and on the flip side, you have long distance caregiving, which is a whole, people write books about that.
Right. Even for people can serve as long distance caregivers, and that's very effective. But sometimes people also feel like they need boots on the ground to supplement that or to be a bridge.
Yeah, I remember what I wanted to say about the myth that we are going it alone. But I also think those that might be going it alone just need to hear folks like you about what they can do to have things in place so that they won't be going it alone. Wendl?
Yeah, if we're talking about myths, I would say two things come to mind. One is getting older has a bad rap most of the time. And it's a myth that life goes downhill, you become irrelevant or invisible, or you're going to be sick all the time, or all these negative things. That is a myth. There is so much in life that gets better as you become an older person. And I think one of the things we can do, as all of us on this call, not just the panel, but everybody who is on this call, we can be pioneers for millennials and Gen Xers to show that life does not stop at 40, 50, 60. Life gets more and more interesting. We can keep up with it. Things will change as you get older. Absolutely. But life is not over, and we can take care of business, get our, documents in order, and live a really interesting, good life. So that's one of the myths I want to bust, is that being an older person isn't so great. The other one is we're never too old to, sorry, my husband's supposed to be picking up that phone. Sorry. The other thing is we're not too old to learn new things. And certainly, I know you said we're going to touch on technology. I can't stress enough to the people that I present to how important it is to get a basic knowledge of technology, because you cannot have a well-served life or a full life without being on the same platforms of communication and learning and entertainment and socializing that everybody else is. So checking out all of the organizations that do that kind of one-to-one training, take advantage of it. So again, we're not too old to learn anything new. And again, life can get just as interesting and just better. It'll just be different when we're older.
As we age, things might happen to us, be they age related or not, and we learn to pivot or to go with the flow.
Right.
Right. And okay, so now let's move on to financial planning. With solo aging often comes unique financial challenges. What are some key strategies you advise clients to consider? Are there any practical tips for solo agers on managing their finances confidently? I mean, that's a really broad topic, but go ahead.
Carol alluded to this earlier, but the whole concept of proactive, which we know, as Carol said, right? The people on this screen, proactive, right? Because we're having this conversation now. Even if you just glean a little bit from this conversation and file it away, it can be helpful for the future. When it comes to financial advice, I leave that to the pros. Right? The people with the actual licenses to be able to offer financial advice. But I will say on the how to access that, take advantage, and I mean that in the most positive way possible, of resources in your community to learn more about financial planning, whether that's programs through PSS in the either virtual or local area all around the country, senior centers, councils on aging, community centers, wherever there are financial advisors and planners who offer pro bono, very brief check-in meetings often. And so really think creatively about what's available. The other thing I suggest is if you know of a reputable financial advisor, go on their website, download their intake form. You may never work with them, but that intake form, that question they ask prospective clients, tells you what a financial advisor would like to have gathered in order to even begin the conversation. So if you are able to access a website, and if you don't have it at home, access it in a library, etc. Those are two low cost, no cost ways of getting that proactive planning started.
Anyone else with?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Wendl.
Yes. Also take advantage of estate lawyers, estate planning lawyers, elder care lawyers, whatever they call themselves. Estates are tied into wealth, and very often lawyers do freebie seminars, or they have very good podcasts, or they have something. But go to some of the bigger firms in your area that specialize in estate planning, and you'll pick up a lot of tips about that. And you don't have to be rich. Everybody's got something that maybe they want to either pass on or protect or invest or whatever. So it's important to learn the basic vocabulary of finance so that when someone talks about a CD or talks about a trust or whatever, you want to know what that actually means. So start building your financial vocabulary. And of course, one of my niches is to encourage people to think about solo agers when they're younger, maybe around 50, start thinking about that, because you can't become 70 years old and say, gosh, maybe I ought to assess saving my money or whatever. Wealth takes time, and the more financial assets you have, the more options you have for care, for the way you want to live, your lifestyle, what you might want to pass on or send, give to charities or whatever. So planning your finances early, of course, is always a very good idea. And in the meantime, the only other thing I would say is be very, very careful, because as we all know, there's a lot of frauds and scams out there. They are very realistic and very convincing. And you want to always be up to date on what the latest is and how that works. So please protect yourself. Thank you.
And it's also good to hear that if you are not of wealthy means, that these resources can still be available to you, which I didn't know.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Carol?
Yeah, something I wanted to add. Finances is very kind of not necessarily near and dear, but when I first started to assess my life, fortunately, I was 55 when both my parents died. And so I kind of did a general brush of assessing where I am right now in terms of back when I was 55. Finances was my weakest point. And so I started to, and I thought, well, where do I start with finances? Well, as I researched, I realized I need to build up an emergency fund. I need to build up my cash, my savings account, my retirement account, and make sure my debt and my credit scores were good. So, and that's just the beginning, but that gave me kind of a quick picture into where I stand financially. And from there, I knew I needed to hire a financial advisor. So that was the first thing I did. And I started to interview them, the local, professionals in my area. And from there, just started focusing on my money. It took about 5 years to get myself into a better position. But fortunately, if you stay focused and work on it every day as best you can, now I'm not saying beat yourself up, but even, tracking your budget is so important, to make sure we're not overspending, and to make sure, and always keep track of our healthcare costs, because
Yeah.
that's really the biggest expense that most of us will face in our lifetime. And so that's just kind of a quick overview.
Yeah, maybe determining if you need long-term care, attending webinars on the subject for sure.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah. A really
yeah.
good resource, I think, for that. I mean, there are a lot of resources, but the Department of Aging or sometimes it's called the Area Agency on Aging, can be a good resource for us. But again, our local community has some, just check it out, start doing your own research, and you'll find your way.
All right. Well, moving right along here, the next topic is loneliness and isolation. Combating loneliness is a concern for many aging solo. What resources and techniques do you offer that might foster social connection or recommend?
Yeah, we could give you a million ideas, but it comes down very often to your personality and what you feel confident doing. And, no one's trying to change anybody at this age, except I will say it's important for people to take baby steps outside their comfort zone. And every time that comes to a good result, it gives you confidence to do a little bit more. If you're introverted, that's fine, and it's a little harder perhaps, but try. And one way to do that is to say yes more often. If someone says, want to go to there, or if you see a course or a class that sounds right up your alley of something you're interested in, sign up for it, go to it, take a volunteer job, go meet people that share the passion for whatever you're volunteering. But there's so many things you can do to take that step outside your front door and meet people and start creating more relationships. Now, if you are homebound because you are disabled or ill, yeah, that's going to be a little harder. And take advantage, if you can, of whatever community-based organizations you have in your area, like PSS, which is wonderful. Or in New York City, we have JASA, the JCC, we have DeRote. There are senior centers. Take advantage, as Ailene said before, of what's available and start taking those steps outside your comfort zone if necessary, but say yes to more things, check out more things, and cast a wider net, shall I say, of people that you have the possibility to meet and perhaps meet again. And honestly, if you hate what you did, don't do it again. You don't have to. But if you liked it, if it was comfortable, try it again. Chances are you're going to start to build a habit. And the more you see certain people, the more likely you're going to become friends with them. And that will help your isolation to hopefully go away.
And a lot of us have put off things or buried things that we dreamed of doing. And now we can unbury it and find community that way, I would think, right?
Yes.
Carol, were you ready to?
Yeah, I do, because it actually happened to me, believe it or not. I was very isolated, because I had retired from my job, and I, of course, living alone, and I didn't know my neighbors very well. So I felt very, not only alone, I knew intuitively I cannot live this way, because I need friends. I need to be social. I need to meet people. However, I was suffering from social anxiety, and it was hard for me to go to these new to places to meet people. So the very first thing I did is I hired a coach,
Ah,
someone who worked with me for 6 months and really helped and gave me processes to develop my own skills. You know, learning skills is so important. I don't care what age we are. So I did. I started, she gave me skills, things to do. And when I started doing them, it changed my life because I was talking to strangers, I was making eye contact, I was saying hello to everyone. As a matter of fact, my sister and I had gone out one evening and we were standing at the like the trolley bus to pick us up because we were in downtown Fort Worth. But nonetheless, I was just talking to everyone around me, and she looked at me and she said, "Who are you?" Because I just totally changed. And so I just really encourage you to find your way and figure out what's holding you back. And for me, that was holding me back. And you have it inside of you to make changes. So just trust yourself.
Wow, that's great advice. Okay. Ailene, did you have something?
Sure. I will always remind people that you can never have too many connections. And they can have all different depths. There are people you just see at book club and never talk to, or see at the gym, or see at a talk, etc., or see on Zoom, because a number of you have been on a number of solo aging programs. So connect, take that opportunity to connect. I also, and some people feel differently about this too, but I'm a big fan of age diversity. And sometimes when I give talks on solo aging and I ask that question, why I suggest that, most recently people have said, oh, that's easy, because you don't want to outlive your support network, which never occurred to me as an answer. So I learned a lot as that is it, but then 4, 5, 6 talks in a row, that definitely is an answer. The other reason is people are in all different places in their lives. We can learn from and with each other. We have different availability. Our peers may be going through similar things at similar times. And so if you have the opportunity to engage with others beyond your peer group, and Wendl's suggestion of volunteering, affinity groups, interest groups, etc., yields that opportunity in a way. Take advantage of that if you can, recognizing that everyone's personality and comfort zone, building on what Wendl and Carol have said, are certainly going to play a role in that. I don't think that it's just magic, but keep that in mind too as you're building or enhancing or nurturing your support network.
Wow, yeah, age diversity is so important. And so our next topic, which I know some of you are really looking forward to talking about, is technology and accessibility. How can technology be leveraged to support independent living and well-being for older adults? I know many people want to age in place.
Well, there's a lot of apps that are available to us. And I use one specific one. I mean, I'm just going to give you a few examples. And one is called Snug Safe. And you can find it online at snugsafe.com. And it is a safety check-in. So what that means is every morning on your iPhone or your Android, you will get a kind of a pop-up window, and it'll say, you haven't checked in yet, Carol. So you push this little tap on a big green circle with the check in the middle, and it checks me in. So it lets them know, or this app know, that you're safe and you've checked in. Now, if you don't check in, You can build a safety network with your neighbors or your close by friends, and it'll send them if you have not checked in, it'll send them a text to say, "Hey, Carol hasn't checked in today," and it'll keep sending a message until. And it'll send me the same message until I do check in. So it notifies people in your safety check-in system or circle. And then also you can so I use the free version. However, they also have a subscription version, and you can, when you subscribe, and if you don't check in, they will send a wellness check, like the police or another type of professional to check in on you at your home to make sure you're okay. So I highly recommend any type of technology for your iPhone, or even especially your phone, that you can check in and make sure, because I think that's vital. And other technologies is exactly one we're on right now is Zoom. Become comfortable with it, because look, you have this wonderful educational class, and these are available via a lot of different platforms, and you can learn a lot. You can learn new skills just going to YouTube videos. You can learn new skills. But for social connection, many senior centers and lifelong learning institutes have courses similar to these, or to other types of, skill-based learning. And so technology, I think, for safety purposes is number one, I believe. So, find ways to make it work for you to make sure you stay safe at home.
YouTube is my friend.
So
If ever I want to learn how to do anything, cook anything, put anything together, that's where I go. Wendl, you had your Ailene. Maybe we should skip around a little bit.
Well,
Go ahead.
one of the attendees put in the chat Senior Planet, which was actually one of the resources I was going to suggest, as well as getsetup.io, which a couple people on here actually have taught classes for, or still teach classes. And it's ways to learn how to navigate different technology, find reliable technology, connect with others. Senior Planet just, I believe, introduced the solo aging group. I think that was an email I got. So even just having that comfortability beyond pressing the blue button in our Zoom email that says join meeting, right? Having the comfortability to navigate different things, feeling comfortable that they're reliable, are all great ways as well. If you're looking for a clearinghouse on different solo aging talks, you can visit the Navigating Solo Library, where we archive all the different talks that are available on YouTube, or other places, so that people can just have it all in one place, and you don't necessarily have to search through the vastness of YouTube. I'm sure Wendl has other great technological suggestions.
No pressure. Thank you, Ailene. Yeah, you mentioned Get Set Up. I certainly was going to give them a plug, and certainly Senior Planet, also known as OATS, which is now a part of AARP. I have taken many, many classes at both of those. I've also taken many tech classes at my local library branches, and a lot of the community-based organizations also have these kind of classes, and also very often one-on-one workshops to get you up to speed. Back in the old days, I think that the highest form of technology for people that lived at home was like a life alert. And there's nothing wrong with life alert. They have bracelets now, they have the pendants. And if you live alone, that could be a good idea. And you can also wear it outside. And if you have a fall or something, there's a fall detector. It'll call somebody for you. Take advantage of smartwatches too. So I have a personal experience that happened earlier this year. I had listed a couple of my friends as emergency contacts on my smartwatch. And I was out walking with a friend one morning, and I didn't have the right eyeglasses on, and I didn't see a raised sidewalk, and I tripped on it. And the first thing I did was bang my head on a wall that I was near. I sort of caromed off the wall, and that impact made me fall to my knees. It was very graceful, very lovely. It happened right in front of the fire department. And next thing I know, they had an ambulance there. And I kept saying, I can go to the ER myself because my head was bleeding. And they said, no, 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 you're getting in the ambulance. So I was with the friend who was listed as my emergency contact. As soon as we get into the ambulance, his smartwatch goes off and says, Wendl has had a fall. So
Wow.
it's amazing how that technology works. And I have since added other people just in case one of my two contacts are not in a position to, text me right away, like, hey, what happened or whatever. But it works. That's what I thought was amazing. So take advantage of whatever technology you can afford and learn how to use it. You can go to Apple, if it's an Apple Watch or something, they give free classes every day. Apple has free classes in all of their products. You just go on their website and they'll tell you who's doing which class at which location in your area. So take advantage of it. Again, you may be stepping outside your comfort zone, but you want to be on the same wavelength, so to speak, of what everybody else is using. You really can't do without it anymore.
I also think of technology in terms of aging in place, where if you have a Google Assistant or an Alexa, it can turn on and off lights for you or start a smart appliance just by telling it to.
Right.
And I have learned how to program my lights, my smart air conditioner, and things of that nature that that help me,
Yes.
because if I'm going to be on a call like this, I need to have the lights on that are in front of me, and the ones that are behind me have to go off, and I just give a command that I set up, So
Yes.
there are different things that you can do and learn with technology. And I am not the solo aging expert, so I'm going to be quiet now. So the next topic we have is community and advocacy. What role do communities play in supporting solo agers? How can individuals effectively advocate for their needs?
There is a good thing that in the last, I don't know, Carol and Wendl, would you say the last 8 months or so, there's been increased national visibility in print and media and other forms of media about solo aging. It still is a slice of the demographic that is completely underserved, overlooked. Wendl, Carol, and I, and we have a band of other professionals who work with solo agers. We meet monthly, are trying to bang that drum, and we've done a pretty good job, but there's always more to do. And so I think community groups, kinship groups, self-created groups, approaching your community center or library about trying out creating a group where you could meet 10 other people or 5 other people and start forging connections. similar to Wendl's model, community as family, but hers is really fleshed out in a great way. Looking at online communities, online offerings, all of those different pieces in terms of joining communities or creating communities, and also reminding, depending again on your activism, interest or whatever, reminding people in your community that solo agers have unique needs and concerns, and to address them in programming, in language on websites, and all of those different things as well.
So in other words, if the resource does not exist, you can go about creating it or setting it up,
Yes.
or
Now,
yeah.
that depends on people's time, personality, interest, skill set, and about 50,000 other things. But yes, or approach a friend who may want to help you create something, right? Even though we're talking about solo aging, teamwork is always a really good thing to employ if you can.
Well, that's great. Carol, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I couldn't unmute myself. So thank you. I didn't know how to do that. But speaking of technology, I flunked. So advocating, I think the first place to start when you're learning advocacy type skills, especially when we're taking care of ourselves, is to really know what your needs are and to understand them, and then learn ways to actively talk about them, to that's not the right word I'm looking for, not talk about them, but to express them. You want to learn how to best express your needs, because otherwise no one's going to step in for you and make sure that that they're listening to you, they understand what your needs are. It's just not going to happen. Even my own doctor won't do it unless I ask the right questions. And I first need to know what my health issues are, what my issues are in terms of living alone, what my preferences are. So I think that when it comes to becoming your own advocate, to start there, knowing what your needs are and your preferences.
Maybe prepare with a list of what you want to ask and have covered at your medical visit, I would think.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Wendl?
Yeah. Yes. Amen. And yes to everything Ailene and Carol said. Absolutely. My niche tends to be towards setting up groups in houses of faith, churches and synagogues. I welcome a mosque contacting me, but so far I haven't had one. But I like to think that the model of community as family can be adapted to every culture. If somebody belongs to a church or a synagogue, for example, and you want a group of people who are interested in this topic and you want to learn and grow together, talk to your clergy if they are open to it. I am happy to meet with your clergy by Zoom or in person, depending on where you are. I've done it over and over again across the country. If you don't ask, you don't get, as Carol was implying. So if you don't want to belong to a house of faith or can't or whatever, then you can do it with your friends. And I can give people tips on how to get a bunch of friends and neighbors started. But the important thing is to get a consensus with the people that you're meeting with. What is it? Why are we meeting? What is it we want to accomplish? How are we going to go about it? So you do have to take the initiative. I like to quote Gandhi, if it doesn't exist, be the change, all right? Be the change you want. And that's how I got started. I needed a group back in the early 2000s and it didn't exist. So I decided to create it. And all of you can do that as well. And in fact, one way to do that is on calls like this, whether it's like Aileen's fabulous group seminars and meetings that she has, or through PSS or DeRote, people start seeing each other on the screen over and over again. And next thing you know, like, oh, you live on the Upper East Side? So do I. All right, let's go for coffee. This is how that starts. I have seen little groups start from calls like this. So I encourage everyone to put out your hand. Chances are there's going to be a lot of other hands ready to take it.
So are we good on all the topics thus far? We've spoken about legal, financial, we've spoken about community, advocacy, we've spoken about so much. I think we've really covered a lot of ground. The one item that that I didn't list as a topic, but I think might be a good topic, and if anyone out there has a topic, you can feel free to post it. I'll see if we have time. Was housing, because I remember Carol had done a webinar for PSS and spoken about how she determined where she wants to live. Some people want to age in place. Some people want to live somewhere where there's access to community. So any insights into housing, where to live, things of that nature? Have you been in your place all your life? Have you moved to a place that, you know, that's better suited for this stage of life?
Well, definitely I have. There's no doubt in my mind. I was living in the suburbs, which put me in a position of being totally car dependent. Few social connections, feelings of being isolated. And I often wondered, if I am hurt in my own home and I can't get up, for example, would any of my neighbors even notice? Because I had a car, certainly. However, my car was parked in the garage. So it wouldn't have been common to not see it. It's not uncommon to not see my car, right? And so I started to, again, do my research according to how I wanted to live. And so ultimately I selected living in an urban area, in a high rise. It's an intergenerational building. It's not a 55 plus. So we have all ages here, which is really wonderful. And I just feel so comfortable and so safe because my neighbors see me and I know my neighbors and we check in on each other. It gives me such a sense of being taken care of being looked after. And we have we do social things together. We don't have a lot. We don't go, we do go out some, but not a lot. We mostly entertain in our own homes. And so I have a few really good friends. As a matter of fact, the person who lives below me is a very good friend of mine. She had a blood clot last week, and she just texted me and later called me because I was on a Zoom call. And so I ran downstairs to check on her. I called the ambulance for her and sat with her until the ambulance showed up. So we really look out for each other. And that just makes me feel like I'm part of a community and that we all belong. And so it's really great. We have ages from, 5, 6 years old, all the way up to 94. And we have different types of groups that we meet together to encourage one another. So that's what works for me. And if you can find, and even if you can't move or don't want to move, I really encourage you to build a a sense of support and community right where you are, if that be with neighbors, with nearby friends, whoever, whatever people you have access to, start building relationships with them. And it'll make all the difference in the world for how comfortable and safe you feel.
You are succeeding in the area that Ailene had brought up, which is intergenerational social connections. That's really great. And Ailene, you have your hand up.
Um, I think that there is a lot of talk right now about what I refer to as aging in community. Other people refer to it as aging in place. It sounds not dynamic enough for me, so I go with aging in community. But for solo agers, really assessing what that means, like Carol was talking about, is really really helpful. We have a colleague named Ryan Frederick who has an outstanding book about place and the role place. It's a bright yellow cover, and I don't remember the rest of the. Do you either of you remember the name of Ryan's book currently? But he also has an assessment on his website. There's also whereyoulive.matters.org, which I put in the chat, which is a nonprofit organization. So you're not visiting a particular brand or commercial anything. And it gives you the opportunity to assess what's out there. That can be another resource in your proactive research as well. So those are, the housing piece is a long, layered, as all these are, conversation, especially for solo agers.
Thanks. And then Tenzin put a question in the chat. Is there a generic name for the kind of apartment that Carol moved into?
No, there's no generic name. It's just a condo, a building with condos. People rent or buy, whatever your preference is.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Ellen does. Oh, go ahead. Finish up.
Sorry. It's not really a question. It's an observation and a thanks in terms of where you live matters, because I have a very, very nice apartment, but I need a little bit more space, don't we all? So I looked at an apartment. Turns out the freezer, which I'm in all the time because I live alone, is on the bottom. It's very heavy. Ellen has a bad back and a bad neck and all the, things some people get. That would not be good going forward. The medicine cabinet medicine, or the bathroom doesn't have a medicine cabinet that opens. It's got storage all underneath. So that's bending 99 times a day, every time. And it just, Ailene, the getting somebody to have another pair of eyes on what you are considering living in or moving to is absolutely critical, borne out by what I saw last week. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And Wendl, I think you get the last word.
My hand was not up, but my last word is just, it's great all of you are here today. One more piece of wonderful community for us to share. Thank you so much, Jeff, for making it possible.
Yeah, and thank everyone. Thank you all, our 3 panelists. Applause, applause.